Hello, 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 hello. What is going on? Welcome back to the second episode of the Wright Play. I'm your host, Blake Wright, and these are some key takeaways I got from a new book that I am just skimming, and I'm trying to share with you kind of what I'm learning using this as my library and my notebook and my all that good stuff. So, 101 Things I Learned in Film School by Neil Landau. So Landau. That's an interesting last name, but it's a pretty good book, and I like that it's got some visuals because people like me, they need some picture books every now and then. But yeah, so this is episode 2. Again, this podcast is for artists, actors, filmmakers, or fan of great storytelling. You can use some of these principles to elevate your craft. So let's get it. But first, I'm going to give you just a slight check-in on the beautiful day I'm having down here with all the opportunities, and I just hope that people can feel the blessings that they have in their life. It's a beautiful sunny day down here in Georgia, Thursday morning, and I'm feeling good and I'm feeling alive. I got my coffee right here for those of you that are watching this video, and we're going to get into it some more. So, all right, enough sidetracking, enough tangents. Let's get it. So the first segment that I learned he talks about, is starting strong. It's very important in film, especially. I think it's important in theater. Is your first line coming out the get-go, and kind of the first things that we see on stage should set the tone. But in cinema, with it being a visual medium, I think it's 100% more important. Your opening image should connect with a central theme and suggest where the story's going, set the tone for where the story's going. So I watched The Prestige yesterday, one of my favorite movies by Christopher Nolan, starring Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale. And for those of you who haven't seen it, it's two dueling magicians in the turn of the century, I think around the 1900s. So The Prestige is it's got an opening of just a bunch of top hats in kind of a wooded forest area, and it's almost like a graveyard. These guys have like so many dead bodies in their line of work, so many blood, scars and pain, and these hats are kind of like a graveyard, and but it also lays out some like deception, shows that it's magicians, show that it's there's something about the way Nolan shoots it. It feels like obsessive. There's so much that it's almost obsessive, and the colors and the gray, muted blues, bring you into that world. It doesn't make you feel like, it doesn't like boom, it doesn't like pop you out, but it's more like there's a lot here and there's a lot under the surface, kind of that bluish vastness that comes from, the sky or from the ocean on right before a storm is about to happen, which is kind of ironic. Spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the movie, skip this part, go watch it. But you should have seen it by now because it's 19 years old. But where that is in an area in Colorado where there's thunder happening all the time, thunder and lightning. And it also makes you feel about sacrifice. And, they talk about in the movie how, you got to get your hands dirty. And the key to a really good trick is to have sacrifice. There's some sort of, stuff like that involved. And it's kind of a metaphor too for creating art. If you think about it, Nolan writes a lot of stuff that, especially that kind of mimics the magic of the filmmaking world in a lot of ways. But it's a beautiful film. Watch it if you haven't seen it. But the opening shot, you don't even realize how deep it's about to go from that first scene. So I think that it's a good piece of advice. Obviously, you can practice that in your music. You can practice that when you are acting and rehearsing. If you're on stage, find out what's the intention of your character from the entrance and go from there. But We're going to also bring this back to filmmaking. Principle number 2, segment idea number 2. Idea number 2 is start your story as late as possible and over the shortest amount of time. So this applies to entire films, but also individual scenes. If you think about it, how many times have you watched a movie where a scene drags because it takes too long to get it going, or it just drags on way too unnecessarily? Instead of wasting time on setting up, get right into the action. If a scene can start in the middle and still make sense, do it. However, do not compromise the importance of the story as well. So you gotta have, you gotta make sure it makes sense. But if it can start right in the middle, get it. Entrances and exits are important, but they shouldn't be drawn out if it's not essential to the scene. And you know, everything as an actor is always essential to the performance. So go to the emotional core and don't linger, don't hesitate. Go in with confidence at that point, because you don't know exactly when your line's going to make it into the film, or they're going to use that shot of you, or if it's going to end up in the trash bin on a computer. So, or it's going to end up in the director's cut 10 years down the road. But, you gotta bring the essential element, and really create a character, because you never know where the performance is going to go. Because yes, it is more interesting to get right into the action than to have an entrance and exit, unless it's part of the style, part of the flow, part of the pace. Because segment number 3, film is showing. Show, don't tell. It's a visual medium. When possible, show rather than explain. I totally agree with this tip as well. There will be blood. First 15 minutes of this film has very little dialogue, maybe no dialogue. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's like, that's important. And I also made a film with my friend Henry Riley up in Maine a few years back called The Hunting Trail, a low budget short. I don't think I said a single line of dialogue the whole movie. Actually, I know I didn't say a single line of dialogue. We had a voiceover in the beginning to kind of set this poetic ambience, because that's kind of what we both like in creating film. But I don't say a damn thing the whole time. And you're just watching me on this hunting trip, So this is, for actors, this means embracing the subtext. It's not about the words, it's about what's underneath them. And for screenwriters, it's about, writing necessary, needed, and full dialogue, and using your creative freedom to create, good, deep characters and great worlds, because we're going to see those characters, living and being, rather than hear about them all the time. That's kind of one of the biggest differences between the stage and film, is that, film is more visual. It's more of, it's different in a lot of ways, but, when you're on stage, the actors are really talking and really telling the story, more orally than probably in cinema. I mean, that's why actors love getting monologues from some of the greatest plays ever, and some of the classics, because they're just so rich. So, this is a good note for directors as well. Filmmakers are like, tell it through the action, tell it through the visuals, tell it through, the music and what we are seeing. Paint this picture, set the dining room table, bang, bang. We want to eat something good when we are, and we're not talking about popcorn. We want to consume something that's like, holy smokes. So, yeah, just an idea to take away from, or to take right there, moving away. But that's kind of all I got for today. I appreciate everyone that has stuck around and listened to these ideas. And, please subscribe if you like this idea. If you like this show, I would really appreciate the love, and I'll give it back in some way or form by keep making this stuff. Leave a comment, share your thoughts. What are your favorite openings? Who's the most efficient storyteller? You know, tell me about it. What's a great example of showing versus telling? And what's a great example of amazing dialogue on the stage or in a play that is necessary, or poetic dialogue? I want to hear all about it. I want to keep this conversation going. And I want to talk a little bit about, what you guys like. So until next time, my friends, keep making the right play.